My husband and I were married for 12 years before he passed away. We have 2 kids together. He also has 2 kids from a previous relationship. When he passed away, his ex expressed wanting to keep things the same and have the kids spending time together. However, she meant the custody schedule, indicating I still have her kids 50% of the time. I miss my husband and was always close with my stepkids, so I agreed. 3 years have passed and his kids are teens and I still want them in my life. However, I want to start forming my own habits, traditions and vacations without her input, such as vacations on her off time and not taking them, me not spending enough on birthdays and her asking me for money for their sports and interests. When I brought this up, she literally threw a fit and literally said I was abandoning them just like their dad. I'm showing my true colors. Clearly, I never loved them like I said I did. I explained they could still come over and would still have their rooms, but if I want to go to my parents, who live hours away, I don't want to have to clear it with her anymore because I also don't want them at my house unsupervised. Not because I don't trust them, but because they're still young. She has literally hired a lawyer and is trying to establish that I agreed to a custody arrangement and she wants child support since we always had more money. My husband had money set aside for his kids when we met, and when he died I sold his assets and split the dollars between all 4 kids. His life insurance was also split into 5 for all of us. The house was mine, so it was never written to be left to his kids. The estate lawyer set it up where they get money at a certain age and she got monthly amount to help raise them. I don't believe I owe her more. Some people in our life are split since it seems like I did agree to custody, but I was just trying to be a stable figure for them. Am I wrong for wanting her to screw off and not wanting to give her anything? This whole thing seems ridiculous, but her lawyer is attacking me. Not the idiot, she's trying to make you share in the rearing and the bill for her kids because you were their step-parent? I don't think so, man. You're already being generous, a part of their life actively, and aren't trying to withhold the money left to them by their father. Plus, this was an agreement you made when husband died. Died? To hold you to that agreement 3 years later is a complete idiot move. There are very few widows or widowers who would have done what you did. I'm sorry you're having to struggle through this. It's not fair to you or any of these children. Exactly. She's ridiculous. I'm surprised a lawyer is entertaining this. That woman has been scamming you out of free babysitting for years. Stop this. The kids are old enough to catch up socially all they want. Don't give the leech any more blood. I would have nipped this in the bud a long time ago. You are under no obligation to co-parent these kids. If you haven't already, I would get a lawyer to stop her from harassing you and learn your rights. But I am curious, you watch her kids. Do your kids go to her place? Never. She said because they never visited her before my husband died, there was no reason for it to start now. I honestly think I have them that much still because they want to be here because she's always off doing her own thing. But if I ever took them somewhere on my time, she'd probably charge me with kidnapping. She and my late husband never married and had kids really young. My parents didn't like the idea of being young and dating someone with kids and suggested I break it off. I was pretty rebellious, so we got married after knowing him for 6 or 7 months before the wedding. Oh wow, I'm reeling. This is madness. I'm so sorry you've been taken advantage of so much. Wow, let her yell and fuss. You legally have no obligation to her or her kids. You are not blood related, you did not adopt them, and there is no legal tie. She's just upset that she can't fob them off on you anymore. Sit down with the kids, explain things, and go finally live your life. You're not the ex-girlfriend's kid's parent or guardian. You don't have any legal claim and no responsibility. Excuse me, can we do the math? Stepkids are teens. OP's husband died 3 years ago. They were married, not just together, but OP says married for 12 years. OP was dating her late husband while his ex was pregnant. I can't really blame her for being a bit hostile to OP generally and wanting to get everything she can out of OP's late husband's assets. Again, get a lawyer now. My 27 wife's 23 grandmother is downsizing and moving into a retirement community. Rather than put everything into storage and wait until she passes away, her grandmother is giving away everything that won't fit into her new home to her family. Part of my wife's loot was a French butter keeper. If you don't know what that is, I will try and explain. It's a ceramic bowl roughly the size of a large mug with no handle. The lid has a smaller bowl attached to it, and when you put it on, the smaller bowl fits inside the bigger bowl upside down. That is important to the story. The bigger bowl has some water in it. That keeps the butter cool and forms an airtight seal to protect the butter. I told my wife that it was really cool and I set it up. She said that I set it up wrong and she emptied out the water and flipped the thing upside down. About a week later I came home and she was crying because she broke it. A little butter had gotten between the two bowls and made them kind of tacky, I guess. When she picked up the outer bowl lid, the smaller one came with it. Butter does not make a good adhesive, so when it was a few inches up, the bottom came loose and fell. It hit at just the wrong angle and broke. My wife says I should have explained better why she was wrong. She said I let her break it to prove a point. She's upset with me for letting her break a gift. I don't know what she would have wanted me to explain. Gravity? The adhesive coefficient of butter? I showed her the right way and let her have her way when she called it dumb. I think if she really cared, it would have taken 5 seconds to YouTube a video of how to use the damn thing. Not the idiot. You can lead a horse to water, but she's projecting and is rationalizing because the item meant something to her and she messed up. It's a safe bet if you did anything else, she'd have accused you of mansplaining. She was content with her approach for a week and didn't realize how delicate and irreplaceable it was until it was lost. This. Older technology doesn't always work in a logical way to people today. She unilaterally decided that she knew better, messed with it, and eventually broke it through misuse. OP feels very I told you so about it, but it feels deserved considering her attitude is I broke it, but it's your fault you didn't correct me when I called you dumb. But this isn't about the butter dish. She's coming to terms with her grandma coming to the end of her life, and she broke what she'd been gifted to remember her by. Your wife is feeling stupid and guilty. You don't need to add I told you so into the mix. It isn't necessary, it isn't helpful, and it isn't kind. This isn't the time to gloat or point fingers. She shouldn't have shifted the blame, but this is an emotional time for her. Have some compassion. I will host the event myself and I'll do that for a while. In our family, we rotate who hosts the family event. This Halloween party is being done by my son and everyone was invited but his sister. She, Amy, cheated on her long-distance boyfriend about 4 months ago. I don't approve of what she did, it was crappy of her. Now my son has taken her cheating personally, extremely personally. I had to tell him to shut up about it multiple times. Now today I was talking with her and she didn't know when the party was. I called up my son and he told me she wasn't invited. I told him I wouldn't be going if everyone in the family was invited besides her. This is when the argument broke out. He called me some creative names for defending the cheater of the family. I hung up after that. I told my husband what happened and he also is not going now. My son is angry and I'm getting messages for not going to the party. Edit, he's 28 and she's 23. I've talked to him about it and he can't stand cheaters, his exact words. She already apologized to the ex and then they broke up. She didn't hide it. His attitude about this makes me think this will be a problem with him for a long time. I kind of wonder if I should mention that his uncle, who was invited, also cheated before. That was years ago. Son has been married for the last 3 years. Hasn't been cheated on, and to my knowledge, she wasn't dating his friend. They haven't even met. Not the idiot. What your daughter does in her relationships is none of your son's business. Cheating sucks for the other person, but it's up to her to deal with that and learn from it. Your son is free to give his opinion about it respectfully if she asks for it, but shaming her, not allowing her to come to his party, and acting like he was the one being cheated on is way too much. Your son sounds like an idiot. You were right to side with your daughter. It shouldn't be affecting your son so much, and the fact that it does is weird and he needs help. I wonder if he's reacting so severely because he's a cheater too. Most of the hypocrites I know who preach how wrong cheating is are being unfaithful themselves. Maybe check on his wife, because I'm getting yikes on a bike vibe. Agree. He's ruining his relationship with his sister, possibly permanently, over something that has nothing to do with him or anyone else in the family. As their mother, she really shouldn't sit back and let that happen, and it sounds like their father is also taking a stand. This won't just impact the Halloween party, but every family event for the rest of their lives if the son keeps acting this way. What your daughter does in her relationships is none of your son's business. That's a weird and sweeping statement. She cheated on her partner, and he's not allowed to have an opinion about that. Not allowed to consider how that might reflect on her character. You are the idiot, OP. It's his home and he can invite anyone he wants. You're pretty much saying who your favorite kid is. If that's the decision you want to take, good for you, but live with the consequences. The ex and I divorced over a decade ago. At the time, we were making about the same amount of money, so we agreed to share custody, shared cost of raising the children, and no child support. She married a guy who was making more money than me, so they could take my kids to places and do things I couldn't at the time. I contributed as much as I could then, the ex covered the rest. For example, they spent a month in Italy one summer, and all I could afford at the time was to give my kids $1,000 each, and the ex covered the rest. When it came time to buy cars for the kids, we disagreed on buying them new or used cars. Ultimately, I contributed $5,000 per child, and she covered the rest for their new cars. Before the global issue, my brother had a great idea and we started a business together. Our business grew during the global issue and it's increased every month since then. Last month, my youngest asked me to help her pay for grad school. I told her I covered the entire cost and she was very happy. I guess word got back to the ex and she called me last week asking where I'm getting the money since she thought I was still at my old job and knows that the old salary could never allow me to be that generous. I refused to answer her questions and we had a huge argument. She demanded I pay her back for covering my share of the children's expenses during our divorce if I had money. I told her to go ahead and hold her breath while waiting for my check because our divorce was finalized and the kids are all over 20 now. Not the idiot. It sounds like you consistently contributed to their educations, health, and you had 50% custody. The fact that she spent more on luxuries is her choice, i.e. new cars instead of used, month-long vacation. Even then you also sent what you could. Child support is for the children and you paid for them when they were growing up. Not sure what her logic is. Her logic is, I want money. It's dumb anyway because she only received money before for the children. He's giving money directly to his child now. She really feels entitled to a payout now? That's absurd. It would be like you demanding intimacy from her second husband. Any judge would laugh in her face and tell her not to waste their time. You don't owe her squat. Divorce is finalized and you started the business afterward anyway. She remarried as it is, and as far as I know that disqualifies you from alimony from the previous spouse, and the kids are older than 18. Tell her this cash cow is off to greener pastures. My brother, 26, and I, 22 female, have a very rocky relationship with our parents, 61 male and 58 female, to say the least. While my brother was able to move out almost as soon as he turned 18, I've stayed with my parents for financial reasons. Because of this, my brother barely ever calls or texts our parents. Last week, my parents invited him and his girlfriend, 20s, over for dinner. It was supposed to be a peace offering sort of thing. The evening went relatively smoothly, and my parents managed to be civil while they were around. That changed when my brother and his girlfriend left, though. Almost as soon as we were alone, my mother started going off about how she didn't like the girl and was sure she was somehow taking advantage of my brother. For context, both my parents grew up poor, but are now doing very well for themselves. Mom continued about how that girl was just using my brother. This didn't sit well with me because the woman she was accusing wasn't there to defend herself and because I know how much my brother cares for her. I challenged my mom on that, but she pushed back about how she knows girls like that and that boys like my brother have to be very careful. She didn't flat out call her a gold digger, but it was very much implied. Dad didn't really say anything himself, but he kept nodding along and pretty much agreeing with what my mother was saying. Again, none of this sat well with me, so once I got a moment alone, I called my brother and told him everything. He thanked me for telling him and has apparently blocked my parents everywhere. My parents asked if I told him what they said and I didn't even deny it. They're now accusing me of betraying them and saying that I wasn't supposed to share what they consider to have been a private conversation. They also kept saying how I should put family first, and that's what they were doing when they voiced their concerns about the girlfriend. So, am I the idiot? Edit, we are very much not rich, we're upper middle class at best. Compared to how my parents grew up and my boyfriend's girlfriend lives, I guess we are rich. Also, it's pretty crappy to assume that every poor person dating your child is a gold digger. That sounds like elitist BS, but maybe that's just me. As to why I don't trust their judgment, I'll just copy and paste the list of people my brother and I dated, along with my parents' reasons for disapproving of them. A guy who wore ear enlargers. A guy who had long hair. A girl who had short hair. A girl who had autism. A girl who didn't share their religion. A girl who comes from a low-income family. Not the idiot. There's a reason you both have rocky relationships with them. Whether it was a private conversation or not, they still disrespected your brother and his girlfriend who didn't do crap. They will never change and need to know not everyone who gets with someone rich is there for the money. They wouldn't have said anything bad if they really wanted to improve the relationship. I have family members who sound identical to OP's parents. They never change, and when you finally think they're being nice, it turns out they were speaking badly about you behind your back the whole time. People like this don't change and cause so much misery in the lives of others. They weren't doing crap to protect your brother because it was all behind his back. If anything, they likely would have weaseled their way back into his life, only to mistreat his girlfriend or any girlfriend they didn't approve of. I've been in the exact same situation your brother is in, OP. I have a strained relationship with my father and his partner, and they decided to voice some unkind, untrue things about me and my SO in full earshot of my sister, and she told me afterward. While it did burst the bubble, I thought the meeting went well and they were finally happy for me. I was thankful she told me so I could finally set clear boundaries and stop letting myself get walked all over by people who don't have my best interests at heart. They also keep saying how I should put family first. You did. Your brother is family. OP, I would start working on an exit plan and then go low contact when you leave. I'm glad you have your brother's back, and hopefully when you move out, you can spend more time with him.